And at 10, killed their brother. Joy, right off the bat, or at least they tried to. Since we play as Michael in every game of the original series with the exception of FNAF 4 and 7, Michael is always the one in danger. And since Baby is after us as the player in FNAF 5 and 6, she is legit trying to kill her brother. And she does so in such a menacing way. Being able to absolutely slaughter your brother without a moment's thought is probably one of the most messed up things that Baby could have done. But if we're being honest at this point, she was kinda nuts, so I think that it's better to put her up higher on the list. Because, like, honestly, thinking about this, in the 5th game, she wasn't really trying to kill him, just get inside of him, which sounds awful when you say it out loud, but in Pizzeria Simulator, she definitely wanted to kill you, okay? And then during her final speech, she even thinks that it's what her father would want. So needless to say, she's pretty out of it at this point, but it makes it slightly more forgiving, but not by much. And at 9, no choice. While he may have had issues killing Afton for whatever reason, Henry Emily just seems to be fine offing Afton's son when he gets the chance. I mean, in both fires set by Henry that we see, FNAF 3 and 6, Michael was there both times, and he didn't seem to care that Michael was in the building. He didn't even give Michael the opportunity to exit in FNAF 6, despite there having been a way out planned. Quote from Henry's final speech: "And to you, my brave volunteer, who somehow found this job listing not intended for you. Although there was a way out planned for you, I have a feeling that's not what you want. I have a feeling that you are right where you want to be." He has a feeling? Like, you assume that I also want to die in these halls and then don't give me the chance to actually make that decision for myself? He forces us to die since he doesn't give us a way out. But sorry, man, but that's murder, okay? Whether we wanted it or not, assisted suicide is still illegal, at least for the majority of the states from my understanding, so either way, this is a crime. But again, he doesn't give us the option, so it makes it more of a murder-suicide than an assisted self-offing. And at 8, nothing. Michael Afton's biggest sin in my mind is his ability to do nothing. Like, sure, he seems to be playing the good guy, going after his father, but really, Michael to me just seems like he's been playing hero this whole time and not really doing anything. Sure, he says he's trying to right his father's wrongs and whatnot, but looking at him, not doing it because he's a good person, he's doing it because he feels bad, and not because of some higher moral code. He blames himself for getting his brother killed, which I mean is accurate, which then subsequently means that anything he does, he's doing to try to make himself feel better about his mistakes. Because in the end, nothing will really bring his little brother back. Well, I mean, that's a whole other story. But I mean, he doesn't even really have the gall, the nuts, the balls, the cojones to actually stop his father once and for all. He says that he's going to come find him, but then when he does in FNAF 6, he doesn't burn the place down to stop him. Henry has to do it. Henry is the only one who's actually willing to eventually sack up and actually try to stop William, and that just shows how serious Michael actually is, okay? If he really wanted to make sure that William was stopped, he wouldn't have let himself burn in the FNAF 6 fire either, okay? He would have forced his way out. But he does, okay? He lets it happen. He sits in the room. Just so that he won't have to feel regret of his brother dying and, like, having the curse of knowledge since he knows what his father was doing. It's messed up. And at 7, letting fate decide. FNAF 6 was supposed to be the end of the Afton story. I really hoped it would be. That's what Henry sets out to do in this game. Make sure that nobody remembered what happened there, despite the parents of the victims definitely remembering, unless he killed them too. However, this figured that the first fire didn't work, so the second one surely will. And in fact, he was so confident in this plan for whatever stupid reason that he actually let himself die in the process. Quote, "Leave nobody remembering what happened or whatever." But like I said, even if Henry and William and his son are dead, the parents of the victims still remember. And as we learned from Security Breach duffel bags, there are parents who remember too, despite not having kids in the past, citing the missing children from the Pizzaplex as happening again. If Henry had stuck around to see if the job was really done, like around a hearthstone, maybe William wouldn't have been able to possess Vanny and then come back yet again to wreak more havoc. The Pizzaplex missing children are a direct result of Henry just straight up being a moron, and you can't tell me any different. He should have lit the place up, smashed everything that survived, and then, after he was 100% sure that Afton was dead, after the goddamn autopsy, that's when you can off yourself. And at 6, betrayal. Betrayal. Top 10 worst anime betrayals, but it's FNAF. In sister location, we thought that we finally had the first nice animatronic, like basically a prototype Glamrock Freddy. Baby was giving us tips on how to survive, she helped us through Belora's gallery, she really seemed like she wanted us to live. But then, what do we get for trusting her? Scooped and stuffed just like a Thanksgiving turkey. This was probably one of the most brutal things to happen to a character in the entire series, and it's all because we trusted Baby. It's because we trusted a woman. She made us feel safe, she gave us confidence, prevented us from getting killed only to use our body as a skin suit and then get kicked out of Enter Not Even a Game later, and she also took the goddamn kids. This is why I don't trust Glamrock Freddy. Baby is legit one of the reasons that I have trust issues now, and that's saying something. Like, holy damn. I could have sworn that Glamrock Freddy was going to do the exact same thing, like lead us down to Afton and then pull a psych. I've been working for this bag the whole time to die, but he didn't. However, thanks to Baby, I still think this man is doing a long con. Source this video, whichever side it pops up on. Halfway through into number 5, Resurrected Afton. The scariest thing that Vanny did, from any real standpoint, is resurrecting Afton. From an in-universe perspective, she brought back seemingly the Earth's most prolific killer. From a story perspective, it kinda comes out of nowhere and feels forced, and in a game sense, he just looks terrifying and sends all the broken animatronics after us. And lore-wise, because, well, Afton's back. However, he's also not entirely back, considering how this version is actually finally dead, seemingly, but only functional because the coded part of Afton's brain is in him. I don't no. This is why it's scary. We all figured that Afton was gonna come back this time around, okay, and understandably so, with the first trailer literally featuring an arm that every YouTuber, including us, milked for as long as they could. Whether he's actually alive again or not, this is the scariest thing that Vanny did in multiple ways. And now, it's canon in universe that people can turn into sentient code that can then be uploaded into animatronics and people, which is a whole other can of worms that I don't want to deal with. And at 4, killing Vanny. In the Phaser Blast ending, you know, the one where you push the button instead of playing Princess Quest 3, Gregory ends up ordering robots to, quote, disassemble Vanny, because he heard Vanny say it, to disassemble Freddy. But Gregory, he knows that this is going to kill Vanny, okay? And him being willing to kill Vanny is extremely messed up, especially if this kid is meant to be 10 or 11, which everyone seems to believe, even though he's like the size of a 4-year-old. That's a whole other issue. But like, you could argue that he doesn't know any better, okay? But Gregory clearly does know better. This kid is easily able to destroy all 3 animatronics without a moment's hesitation and then use their upgrades on Freddy. He can drive a goddamn truck, and then he's just willing to kill Vanny, like I said, despite actually seemingly knowing her like we see in the best ending. And he burns Burn Trap multiple times in an attempt to stop him from taking control over Freddy. So like, what the absolute living hell is this kid doing, and how is he so nonchalant about this whole thing? This kid kills Vanny and then only gets emotional when he has to go talk to a destroyed Freddy robot. Like, dude, there is a literal human bleeding out right next to you. You can say, like, he was doing it in self-defense, but he's not, okay? Self-defense requires the proper use of force. This kid could have said, stop Vanny, restrain Vanny, I don't know, tackle Freddy, not freaking disassemble, okay? Like, I get that it's fresh in your mind, but dude, they literally were tearing the limbs off of Freddy in that scene. We see what happened to Freddy with his whole chest and stuff just being open. Like, imagine that, but soft, fleshy, easily broken, because, you know, it's not metal, human. Yeah, you're not panicking about literally anything else. Just say something that doesn't involve a human dying, okay? Especially if you know her. Gregory commits murder in one of the endings to this game. Does nobody find that a cause for concern? Getting close to the end, and at number 3, killed his kids. You know what, sure, he may not have done it directly, but Afton's actions ended up resulting in all 3 of his kids' demises. Him killing Charlotte got Fredbear's clothes, which resulted in him having to open circus babies, which then made him have to dust off the baby animatronic and the other funtimes, which were designed to kill in the first place. More on that in a second. Then, Baby ends up grabbing and crushing Elizabeth, resulting in her possessing Baby, even though Afton should have and probably could have easily put a blacklist on these animatronics animatronics like, hey, don't kill these, they come from my loins. He superpowered the jaw of the Fredbear animatronic in case he had to use it as a backup kill suit, and then used it at the new Freddy Fazbear's, which ends up crushing his youngest son's skull since it was not a spring lock failure, okay? All the spring locks weren't being used. It was in animatronic mode, not suit mode, so there was nothing to fail, meaning that crying child was killed by the power of the jaw. And while you could argue that that was Michael's fault, why would he think that a animatronic mouth would crush a skull? Okay, and as the suit technician, William knew what he was doing. And then he gets Michael killed when he sends him down to find his sister in sister location, which then ends up him realizing all the things that his father is doing, and then he ends up getting stuck into Enter, and then he ends up getting stuck in FNAF 6 because he's trying to right his father's wrongs because he figured out what happened. Yeah, William's actions got all 3 of his kids killed, okay? Just because he didn't do it with his bare hands doesn't mean that it's not his fault. All because he just wanted to kill his business partner's daughter for whatever goddamn reason. But ultimately, in number 2, neglect. I find it kind of funny how the worst things that characters have done in this series come from actual humans. And you know what? This might make a few Henry stans mad, but it has to be said. If you're suspicious of your business partner and concerned for your daughter's well-being, you don't just give her a special bracelet that makes her a priority to the one security robot that you have, especially when that bot can be easily disabled by just putting a couple of boxes on top of it. No, you keep her at home. You keep an eye on her as much as you can. You know, in this scenario, being a helicopter parent is okay because her life is actually in danger, and you should be doing that anyways because, you know, she's like 3 years old. You don't give her a bracelet then let her run amongst the big kids at the pizza place where she then gets locked outside of and killed. Dude, no. How did she even get locked outside? How is this possible? Like, how could that even happen? Neglect. This man put a green bracelet on his 3-year-old daughter and said, that's enough, and then neglected her, hoping that a green band would be enough. Dude, what the actual hell? Especially when the man you think may hurt her is the one who built the goddamn animatronics in the first place and knows exactly how to disable it when the time comes. The worst thing Henry has done was straight up get his daughter killed. He suspected William and then didn't report it to the cops until his daughter died, okay? He could have at least gotten a conspiracy charge or had Afton under observation, could have gotten him looked at by the cops so that his daughter would at least be safe for the time being. And then he thinks that a bracelet is enough to keep her safe, thanks to an animatronic that William had designed. It was Afton Robotics after all. God damn, just move! And finally, in at number 1, they started everything. We can joke all we want about how Afton has a hardcore bloodlust in this series, but his desire for human destruction has been there since the start. Thanks to the fast facts found in FNAF AR's files, we learned that the funtime robots, the one used in sister location, were actually some of the first robots that Afton made. Not necessarily the exact first, but among the first. And that's when they built the special containment chambers inside to store away items, which we all know is code for a child storage tank that we can actually see inside the funtimes when you look at their blueprints. So this means that Afton has been wanting to kill kids since before his kids died. Hell, maybe even before they were born, depending on when this actually takes place in the timeline, which at this point is as simple as like my feelings for Vanessa, which is not simple at all. His desire to kill has caused me enough suffering in real life, let alone in the games. So yeah, definitely the worst thing a FNAF character has done, but I'm still gonna blame Scott. In at 10, springlock suits. While Henry may not have designed the springlock suits, he certainly let Afton create them and then allowed for their use in the restaurants, despite them being incredibly dangerous to employees, only putting them out of commission when someone got hurt, and not being proactive because they were literal death machines. You can make separate animatronics and have separate costumes, okay? That's the right move, that's the smart move, it's the safe move, because this so-called businessman thought, yeah, I'll put the safety of my employees at risk by making them wear a hot as balls suit filled with robotic parts that even with the slightest bit of water or moisture will cause those robotic parts to snap back into place. What can go wrong? We want to talk about Willy Wonka's OSHA violations, imagine FNAF's OSHA violations. Actually, you don't need to because we already made that list, okay? Go check it out. And at 9, crushed Elizabeth. Okay, I mean, don't get me wrong, some specific kids make me get William's whole MO, but the fact that he made these robots, especially the funtimes, specifically to kill, and then the first kid they get is his own daughter? That's some serious karma, man, but considering how horrific Baby becomes after this, thanks to Elizabeth, I feel like she may have had it coming. This girl was a lot more like her father than she should have been, in all honesty, especially when she was, like, what, 3? While yes, crushing any kid would have been bad, but like your creator's daughter? Seriously. Like, why was there no blacklist for these kids? Like, hey, don't grab these. Like, you have the animatronics that can walk on their own, you have advanced AI, you have facial recognition technology, but you can't make a goddamn program that says, do not kill these kids, they come from my loins. Bro, like, if you ask me, you had it coming. Like, who tells their kids not to do something and expects them to listen? Jeez. Especially when you built that robot to attract and lure kids, okay? Seriously. Honestly, this is more of a William screw up than a Baby screw up, but either way, this guy's a real dum-dum. And it ain't missing kids. With so many Fazbear locations having kids go missing, you'd think that they'd go out of business. But maybe every parent feels like they have something to prove or something, so they risk the lives of their kids so that when all is said and done, they can go home and flex on the other parents at the weekly book club meeting saying that their kids survived a trip to Freddy Fazbear's. I don't know. It sounds like a Karen move, but no matter what the reason is, at least 9 kids have gone missing once again in the newest Fazbear location, the Pizzaplex, resulting in multiple complaints, but as we see in the opening cutscene where Freddy glitches out, still a full house. We don't exactly know what happened to these kids, however we can assume that those kids were in fact made into corpses, perhaps to restore Afton to full strength, maybe they're just being kept in a cellar, but either way, it's pretty messed up. I don't know, maybe they need like a sacrifice a month in order to recharge all the animatronics. That's something I wouldn't put past Fazbear. Either way, at least 9 kids have gone missing thanks to Vanny, as we see in the worst ending. So yeah, Vanny's pretty messed up. And it's 7, encouraging Gregory. Assuming that Glamrock Freddy is possessed by Michael, or even just Glamrock Freddy in general, because, you know, the whole Michael thing hasn't been proven or disproven as of yet. Michael, as Glamrock Freddy, just straight up encourages Gregory to risk his life in order to get out of the Pizzaplex, when in all honesty, the safest thing to do would just be to keep him in either your stomach or your green room until 6 a.m., okay? Especially after the door closes and he was definitely stuck. There was no need for this daycare secret escape hatch thing, okay? You could have just gone back the way you came and then everything would have been fine. You wouldn't have been suspicious since you would have, like, at least appeared to listen to Vanessa, then went back to your room, and then Gregory would have been safe, like, especially after you knew that there was a crazy bunny running around trying to kill him. So yeah, if Glamrock Freddy is possessed by Michael, Michael did a horrible job protecting his surrogate younger brother, okay? And if not, then Glamrock Freddy just messed the hell up. And at 6, Afton Amalgam. One of the biggest plot twists in the Fazbear Frights books epilogue stories is that they end up fighting a giant trash rabbit known as the Afton Amalgam. But then a mysterious black blob is revealed to be behind everything. This blob is then revealed to be controlled by Baby, or I guess by Elizabeth. Either way, at this point, it's the same goddamn thing. I'm guessing that this reveal was originally intended to happen after Security Breach was released, given the original release date of the game and the books, which would have made this so much more rewarding, but Baby was literally revealed to be controlling a version of her father, the man who got her killed by creating a robot designed to kill other kids. The man who killed her brother in that same way, who killed 5 additional kids, and who wanted to bring her brother back to life as an animatronic. She controlled a version of him, and then still wanted to make him proud. Halfway through, in at number 5, stayed open. Not only did Henry Emily allow for the spring lock suits to be used by staff, even if it was in their contract. It shouldn't have been in their contract, it shouldn't have needed to be in their contract. But this man kept the company going after losing how many kids? His daughter, Afton's 2 kids, 5 more in 1985, and then however many kept getting slaughtered every time they reopened. By reopening over and over, Henry gave Afton a location to kill. Even when he got Afton banned from the location and tried to use facial recognition tech to keep him out, Afton made the robots, so of course he's not gonna add himself to the facial recognition, you if it was even ever actually a thing to begin with. This man reopened how many times before finally biting it in FNAF 6? Seriously, before Springtrap was even a thing, they reopened like 3 times at least. Why did this man think that any of this was a good idea? In FNAF 6, he says he wants everyone to forget about the tragedies that were caused by these restaurants. Just do that by closing the restaurants in the first place, before Springtrap was created, so that we can all just live in peace. God. In a 4, security room. Now, look, okay, locking us in a security room while we're trespassing and then waiting for the cops is one thing. Doing that, saying you're calling the cops and then not calling the cops is something else. And on top of that, changing into your serial killer persona and then coming after me while I try to escape with the very clear present on the ground is another thing. But some say we can't fault Vanessa on this because she ended up losing control to Afton and that's not her fault. But you know what, actually it is. I've talked about this before. Vanessa knows that Afton is controlling her. Well, maybe not exactly, but she knows that someone else is in her head and that they don't really have good intentions. She knows she's blacking out. I mean, how can not know that? We know that she knows all of this thanks to the CDs where she's talking to the therapist about how he could always be listening, and she just doesn't know where he could be. She knows about all of this, yet still locks us in a room where her psychotic double can then find and kill us. Bro, come on. Why would you think that that's a good idea? Just kick us out next time, especially if you're trying to resist William's influence. It's not like he's gonna make you off yourself, okay? He's gotten this far. He isn't gonna restart. Like, if he even has the ability to restart. He might not, okay? You're like his only lifeline. Getting close to the end in at number 3, Burning. FNAF 6 is a pretty good game. It was something new and probably the most interactive FNAF game ever since we got to make our own pizzeria and then ended up becoming a part of the story. But the ending, while good and one of the most iconic speeches of all time, Michael letting himself go up in flames as well as the whole pizzeria is seriously dumb on his part too. I mentioned this last time and I blamed Henry for it, but also like, bro, you've seen your father come back how many times? Just as many at least as anyone else. So like, at least keep kicking for a year or two to actually make sure that he's dead instead of just hoping he is. You know this man is as relentless as Taco Bell after a night of binge drinking, so like, why would you just think things are gonna be fine? I wish like one person in this series would actually think something through. And you know what? Henry encouraging him to stay and then also not giving him a way out just seems like a horrible idea to me. Straight up. Like, I get that you want nobody to remember this, but unless you go out and kill the parents of the victims and literally anyone who's ever covered the story or even read about it, people are always going to remember. Okay, so just stay alive, make sure the story is over, and then you can off yourself. Jeez. Both Michael and Henry are honestly at fault for this because Michael didn't even try to get out, but it's mostly Henry in my eyes, okay? Michael just gave up. But ultimately, in at number 2, didn't call the cops. Let's look at this logically, alright? Henry knew what was going on and that Afton was doing some shady otherwise he wouldn't have put the green wristband on Charlie, right? Well, if he knew this man was up to something and was fearing for his daughter's safety because of it, why didn't you pick up the phone and call the goddamn cops? Okay, you'd be like, hey man, so you know, William Afton is the one that's killing all the kids you're looking for? Yeah, maybe he didn't have proof, okay? Certainly could have kept an eye on him at least, or gotten the police to actually, you know, check him out sooner rather than later, but he didn't. And instead, he did a whole load of other things that in reality did nothing to really hinder William. I mean, he did some stuff that put him out of commission for like 30 years by, you know, trapping him in a sealed room, but only 30 years. He let him get out. Dude, you go there and you make sure, hey, don't demolish this wall. We kinda need it for a reason. Can't really explain. Don't tear it down. This man could have stopped him, but instead he chose to just keep his mouth shut. And you know what they say? If you see something, say something. I mean, they say that on the Toronto Transit. I don't know if they say it anywhere else, but it's true. And finally, in at number 1, stored your daughter. We all know that Afton isn't the best dad, but it's something else to lock up your robot-possessed daughter into an animatronic testing facility, okay? That seems to be a bit too far, if you ask for my humble opinion. But nevertheless, he still did it. And that's what Sister Location is all about. And even in that game, we are shocking baby. We are shocking his daughter, okay? William was the one who sent us as Michael down there in the first place, and then we get shoved full of Ennard bits so that they can escape after we've shocked literally all the animatronics, including his daughter. Like, did William know about that plan? Because like in FNAF 6, Baby says that she's gonna make her dad proud, so like, was William's intention to send us down there so that Baby could get out? And if that was the case, why did he lock her down there in the first place, and why did he make us shock her? And if she was your daughter, okay, why not just have her chill around the house? Okay, like in the books, Baby is able to transform between like the baby animatronic and a human looking animatronic at will. So why not add this to the version of your daughter? Then you can have your daughter back, albeit a little more metal, and not in the cool way, but in the actually made of metal kind of way. I don't know, you're stupid. In at 10, possibly killed wife. Well, this hasn't been confirmed as of yet, so it currently is non-canon, but many people consider William Afton offing his wife to be the story of her demise, even though technically we know nothing about her and she could still be alive. Many people consider her to have died either in a car crash or because William killed her. Those are the most common thoughts on the matter, although her dying in a car accident came from a FNAF music video that was made by the Living Tombstones, and I don't even think there's actually a car accident in the video. I looked at it and I don't think there was a car accident, but I've had many people yell at me in my DMs and in the comments telling me that it's canon that she dies in a car accident, but it's not. It's not even canon that she died, really, okay? I mean, it's FNAF, so the potential is there that William was the reason she kicked the animatronic part-filled bucket, but it's only a possibility. That's why it's at the top, okay? I get, if it ends up getting confirmed, I am more than willing to bump it up more on this list, but I mean, like, statistically speaking, your spouse is the person most likely to kill you, especially if they're a serial killer bent on bringing their son back from death, but I mean, hey. In at 9, arson. Alright, don't get me wrong, I love fire, and I've made jokes about arson multiple times on this channel, but because I love a little anarchy. But this man has some serious pyromaniac tendencies from the looks of things, alright? Henry Emily. He sets one place on fire in 2023 and then proceeds to light another building on fire not long after that. Bro, what's your deal? Like, why are you all so fire happy all of a sudden, okay? It doesn't even work. Literally every time we see a fire, it doesn't do one thing. It doesn't do the one thing we wanted it to do, which is kill Afton for good. He survived in FNAF 3, he survived in FNAF 6, he survived in the security breach fire only to get grabbed by the blob, so clearly fire isn't working. But Henry doesn't stop, even though it failed when Afton was literally locked in a room for 30 years. And yes, the FNAF security breach fires were thanks to Henry, since it was almost certainly the same system that he used to set the original FNAF 6 building on fire because it's the same building. So yeah, since this is the Freddy's simulated pizzeria from that game, those fires are the same fires, but also not. This man keeps setting fire after fire with no actual accomplishments because of it. Like, goddamn, take a hint, dude, it's not working. And it ain't sealed Afton. Speaking of putting William out of commission for 30 years, why did he do that? It seems like a dumb idea compared to some alternatives, okay? Maybe he tried other avenues before he actually ended up hiding those rooms away and sealing them. Maybe that was his last resort. But in reality, we can't be sure. We have really nothing to go off of, okay? This man sees Afton stuck spasming in the spring Bonnie suit and then straight up thinks, yeah, let's just hide this and let's put him out of his misery and try to end his killing spree once and for all. I mean, he might have tried it, and I mean, like, we know he's possessed, so he couldn't have done it, but like, he could, did he try? We don't know. It seems like the biggest mistake made by any FNAF character is the choice to make William suffer. If we just like put him to the sword, maybe we'd all be able to go home safely. But no, okay, he locks Afton in a room where he hopes that he'll starve to death and suffer. Stupid idea, okay? He could have just ended it there, hopefully, maybe, possibly. We don't know if he was possessed at that point. I don't know he was possessed at that point. He could have tried to end it. We don't know if he tried or not, okay? But like, even if it did work, it's not like someone's gonna know it was you, or even that the animatronic actually contained a person, okay? Even like the death penalty nowadays doesn't have people suffer, okay? Like, don't be dumb for your own petty vengeance. Let them suffer in prison, where they're probably gonna get killed anyway, because they don't like people who attack children in prison, which is weird enough, but like, still. But hey, and if you're gonna lock him in a room for 30 years, don't set him free. There's a thought. And at 7, lied about Remnant. Now, this also isn't confirmed, much like the fact that he possibly killed his wife. However, Afton lying about how Remnant works seems to be the most likely explanation to me. So if you want a full explanation as to why I think that Afton lied about Remnant, go check out that video, okay? Link is in the iCard, if I can remember. Can't guarantee that, but I'm gonna try, okay? But I'm gonna wrap up my ideas quickly here. Basically, there have been 3 fires so far that were all meant to finish William Afton for good, and none of them worked. The reason Henry tried fire is seemingly because that's supposed to be the thing that can burn off Remnant. However, Remnant can also be found in liquid form, so how can it be molten but also burn off via fire? You use fire to make things molten. It makes more sense to me, at least, that William ended up making up this lie and passing it off as Phineas Taggart or something similar, so that Henry thinks that he can be killed by fire, so if Henry did try to kill him, he would keep trying and failing to do so, since he didn't have to worry about actually dying. Since literally every time Afton has been caught in a fire, he has survived, okay? And you may think that it's the one you should not have killed, but the other animatronics infused with Remnant also survive, like Baby, the puppet, and Ennard in FNAF 6, as we see from the blob. So, yeah. And at 6, listened to his father. Now this takes a bit of assuming, okay, but less assuming than if Glamrock Freddy is possessed, so it's gonna be a little more realistic. We learn in Michael's final speech in Sister Location that he went to find his sister because his father asked him to, saying something along the lines of, "I did it, I put her back together, just like you asked me to," which is, yes, in reference to Baby. But the issue I have with this is, why did you listen to your dad? Okay? I don't think he learned about the horrible things his father did because of Baby, okay? I think he must have learned of it beforehand. Maybe when he got Crying Child killed, because, you know, it was a freaking animatronic jaw that should not have been able to do that, and that's why he put his head in there to begin with, okay? And even if he didn't know what William was doing, honestly, that could make this point even worse. Like, what else has William asked his son to do? Either while he's been stuck in Fazbear's Fright, or before that, what has Michael done without question? I don't know, okay? It's a thought that really worries me, and maybe Michael has more to repent for than just hurting his brother, you know? Maybe he's accidentally found victims for William. It's possible. We don't know. Halfway through into number 5, freed Afton. Like I said earlier, not only does this man lock Afton away in a secret room in an old pizzeria, he then ends up letting him be set free. Henry, the owner of the company, would most definitely have been the one to okay the sale for a FNAF 3 location, or even license out the IP so that they could make a recreation, okay? He would have had to, okay? However, he sells it anyway, knowing that Afton is trapped inside a location, okay? I don't know why this guy thought that it was a good idea, but here we are. William is then set free by these new people because they see that the original blueprints have a secret room, and then lo and behold, William is free again and thirsty for blood. Like, sure, Henry might have thought that William was dead, okay? But did he think that those guys would stumble upon a dead body in a secret room all sealed up and just ignore it? Or freak out and get rid of it themselves? Like, would they even know it was a dead body? Because, like, they might have just thought it was an animatronic, like they do in the game. So, like, what was Henry's plan here? It doesn't seem to make any sense. Was this man on some form of illicit substance that I can't name because it's YouTube when he came up with this whole idea? Like, I don't know, okay? It seems like a really stupid f***ing idea if you ask me. Like, who would think that this is going to work out? Especially after owning a business for that long and seeing how many times this fucker comes back. Well, I mean, at this point, he didn't know that he came back, but like, still. In at 4, bad babysitter. Now, while we don't really know the details about what's going on inside the Midnight Murderous minigame, I think it's fairly safe to say that this is supposed to be the Afton family, and particularly the Afton males. Seemingly, Michael was babysitting Crying Child while their father was, at work, but Michael was just watching some TV and not his little brother, which allowed his little brother to break his window and go to a pizza place again, which I'm sure made his father so angry that when he got back home, he wasn't the nice father I'm sure he pretends to be on the outside, if you kinda know what I mean. So Michael's neglect ended up getting his little brother in trouble, and then God knows what else, all because he wanted to watch his show, which is possibly Immortal and the Restless, which, you know what, makes it even worse because it's a freaking soap opera. Okay, and before any of you get mad at me and tell me that, like, the one who tells William to go easy on Crying Child is someone else, okay? It's Michael. It's most definitely Michael. It's not a wife, okay? Since this is after William started killing. Plus, it's the same gray shirt that he wears in FNAF 4 in front of the same TV we sit at in Sister Location. That's about as clear cut as this series gets. So, yeah. Getting close to the end, and in number 3, human masks. Now, it's unclear what Vanny does with these human masks, but through the FNAF AR emails, we learned that Vanessa, while in her Vanny Persona 5, ended up purchasing 3 realistic human masks. No idea why. It's, like, never brought up again, but honestly, you gotta admit that's pretty terrifying no matter what she ends up doing with them. Maybe they were for realistic humanoid robots, maybe, or maybe she wanted to prank people on Omegle, where she pretends to be a dude or something. I don't know, okay, but the possibilities are fairly finite, but also endless, if you know what I'm saying. Like, there are so many things that she could be doing with those masks that it's impossible to guess. I mean, Educated Guessing and MatPat both lean towards one of the masks being used on Gregory, but this then begs the question, if that is true, where did the other 2 go? Or, like, were they used at all? Or, like, any of them? Vanessa and Gregory are the only 2 human characters in this game, so, like, what's the deal here? Is she using one to, like, put on William again so that he has a normal face? I don't know, just buying them is scary enough, but, like, did she use them? Or did she hang them on her wall or something? I think the fact that we didn't see them in Security Breach makes it worse than actually knowing what she did with them. But ultimately, into number 2, grand larceny. Now, stealing a boatload of trinkets, fine, assuming we gave that as a pass to Gregory, okay? Either way, he still commits grand larceny, which is typically seen as stealing anything with a combined value of $400 or more, or something that would cost over $400 to replace in a reasonable amount of time. If we ignore the 87 collectible prize boxes found throughout Security Breach, which would easily equal to over $400, he still steals Freddy at the end of the game. In multiple endings, Freddy and Gregory leave the Pizzaplex without a care in the world, including the canon ending. And before you say, Connor, I'm calling BS, Freddy chose to leave with Gregory in those endings. Freddy is an animatronic robot, okay? He has no free will. He is not sentient. He physically, in the eyes of the law, cannot make that choice. He is property of Fazbear Entertainment. He is not a living being, okay? He has no rights. He is a robot. He's an object in the most literal sense of the word, which makes me think that we need to just stop playing these games. I mean, I don't even want to deal with this. So, Gregory, in theory, should be getting charged with a whole lot more than just grand larceny, in my mind, based on multiple other videos. I mean, like, a couple parts ago, I'm pretty sure I explained to you that he just straight up murders Vanny. But yeah, tell me that you don't think replacing Freddy in a reasonable amount of time would cost less than $400. Okay, if you're trying to tell me that right now, I need you to leave this video, okay? He would be the most expensive thing to replace. He literally is, the AI complexity alone would cost $400. God. And finally, in at number 1, the missing children's incident. I mean, this is fairly low-hanging fruit since it's like the inciting moment for the whole series, but I think it's worth calling out at least. The missing children's incident, in case you've forgotten, is the infamous incident where 5 kids go missing inside of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza and are never seen again. Police investigated but were unable to find any bodies, thus they had to let their suspect, in this case I'm guessing William Afton, go due to a lack of evidence. However, this is one of the most historically painful moments that you can think of, okay, especially if you're a parent. 5 families went into Freddy Fazbear's wanting their kids to have a good time, like in 1985, and then left without their favorite people. And they had the time of their lives, and it also just so happened to be the end of their lives. Not only that, but Afton also ends up getting away with it since the police were terrible at their jobs or getting paid off. Still not sure which one in this case, okay? But the missing children's incident is one of the most messed up things to ever happen in this series, but without it, we wouldn't have the series. So, at least it's all fake on this earth, at least. In at 10, breaking and entering. Gregory has quite the reputation for getting inside the Pizzaplex, at least if he is Client 46, which at this point I am unsure. But either way, whoever Client 46 is known for breaking into the Pizzaplex, as we learned through the therapy CDs that you can find at the end of Security Breach. The ones involving Client 46 are certainly, maybe intended to be Gregory, although they might be this new blonde chick from Ruins. And every time they break in, they end up getting caught on camera or by technicians or someone working there, enough times to actually mention it to the therapist, who then brings it up with 46. Breaking and entering would actually be what they'd actually be charged with that if they weren't under 12 and seemingly could actually get caught. But despite a few witnesses, the cameras never get a solid shot of them, possibly due to Vanny, since the camera was distorted when they were talking to someone with bunny ears. I originally thought that the distortion could be Gregory as a robot, however it was pointed out to me in the comments that it was most likely Vanny, just because she messes with CRT and stuff, and yeah. In at 9, bunny suit. Now, making the suit itself isn't scary, okay? People do it all the time. Hell, I've made a couple costumes, or at least I've helped with one. But the creation of the bunny suit itself, that's not the scary part. The scary part is why she made the suit, okay? The implications and the reasoning behind it, because Vanny makes the costume because William forced her to do it when he was taking over her brain, threatening her if she didn't comply, and then, you know, they made the suit to turn children into corpses. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty horrifying, especially, like, this is what the suit was made for specifically. Like, maybe the original spring bodysuit wasn't made for that and just ended up becoming it, but this suit was specifically designed with that in mind. Okay, same thing could be said for Glitchtrap, but that's not a physical suit, it's a digital manifestation that takes control of people's brains so that he could have a vessel in a video game world, okay? But this is an actual costume, okay? With the express purpose of getting close to kids, and then, yeah, so pretty terrifying. Not to mention the furry implications, which make it a whole lot worse. Irritating impersonation. Identity theft is not a joke, Jim. Especially not when it's an animatronic impersonating a kid. Yeah, that's right, you heard it right here. Baby in the FNAF novels ends up impersonating Charlie, but not teen Charlie. Haha, no. Instead, she ends up impersonating adult Charlie because the books weren't complicated enough already. Basically, in the novels, Baby has the ability to change between a realistic human-looking thing and her normal circus baby look, and she does this thanks to pins on her body. No idea how that helps her go from a 7-foot tall animatronic to a 5'9" woman, but oh well. Anyway, for some reason Baby and Charlie's adult robot version are the same robot, and it's unclear why, since Henry made a series of 4 robots for Charlie after she was killed in 1983, which doesn't really make sense given what we know about the timeline already, but I guess it's different in the books because at that point Elizabeth would have been killed in an already created baby animatronic, meaning that Henry would have had to make the first 3 robots from scratch and then thought, nah, I'll just turn this, the adult one can just be this robot here, and then it just so happened to also be possessed by Elizabeth. But honestly, okay, there's a whole load of plot holes in the book, so we'll just ignore that. Either way, identity theft isn't cool. And at 7 left his sister. Now, don't get me wrong, allowing yourself to be a vessel for a group of evil dickbags is one thing, but the other ending doesn't really actually get him off the hook either, okay? In the other ending for Sister Location, the other ending, the non-canon one where Ennard attacks you while you watch Immortal and the Restless, you end up actually leaving your sister in the underground storage facility for dead. Well, I mean, not for dead since she's already dead and possessing an animatronic, but you don't even try and help her or set her free. And that's assuming that what we did in the previous games, you already knew how to set them free, so why wouldn't you do that for your sister, okay? Exactly. That's what I thought. My sister and I, okay, we don't always see eye to eye. Sometimes she can't take my hilarious jokes and exceptional humor. But I'd still release her soul if it was trapped inside a 6-foot tall giant robot, okay? I would. But this man, he just leaves, okay? And we know that he knows it's Elizabeth, but he doesn't care, okay? What a great big brother, alright? You screwed up one sibling, but let's screw the other one over too, right? And at 6, Henry. Why did William think that killing Charlotte wouldn't have any consequences, okay? You killed your business partner's daughter, that's gonna be pretty obvious to him, especially since he was already suspicious that you were up to something. He took extra care to protect his daughter and she still died, okay? That's a vengeful father origin story if I've ever heard one, and he didn't even need vengeance yet. So then, when you know he's after you, or maybe he seems like he's after you, why didn't you kill him next? Killing Henry could have done wonders for your criminal career. I mean, yeah, the cops were already suspicious of you, but as long as they can't find a body, you'll be clear again, okay? That already happened once. If they didn't put you away for 5 missing kids, they're not gonna put you away for a missing father as well. Especially a jury who has to be convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that you are the killer. And without a body, there is no real forensic evidence. And again, they didn't put you away for the kids, so why would they put you away for Henry, okay? Or just why? You're stupid, William. God. How I doing at number 5? Steals merch. While yes, Gregory does steal multiple items while we play through the game, he also has already stolen stuff prior to the game starting. If you pay attention to his character model and some of the certain comic panels and various endings, we can actually see that his shirt and shoes, at the very least, are Freddy Fazbear themed, okay? They have his head on, the designs, and considering how this kid has no home, sleeping in a cardboard box in the worst ending, I doubt he could really afford to properly purchase Fazbear Entertainment clothing. So needless to say, he steals the clothing off of Freddy's back. This is why they have to keep opening, okay? Otherwise they'd be bankrupt, and the current CEO, whoever they are, would also end up having to live in a cardboard box. This one kid is the reason they can never fully close, and you know what? That's on Gregory. Every person who's ever died is Gregory's fault. And at 4, destroyed Freddy. Both the Phaser Blast and the Princess Quest endings both require you to have gone through the Phaser Blast section of the map, okay, since you need to discover Vanny's secret room. Without the Princess Quest machines active though, you are unable to play the third one, so you just end up enacting vigilante justice against Vanny. How do you do this, you ask? Using the same robots that she's ordered to dismantle Freddy, which ends up making a group of staff bots literally tear Freddy limb from limb. I mean, he keeps his limbs, but like his insides are absolutely destroyed. Like me when I eat too much Taco Bell after a heavy night of drinking. His insides are torn apart, and he can only survive by you removing his head and then bringing it with you, okay? I said it in another video that that's a whole other can of worms, but still, okay? She disassembles Freddy, which apparently to Gregory is enough justification for the robots to just tear this woman to shreds. So there's little left of her. We don't even try to unmask her after that, possibly because that little monster didn't want to see the human face behind the person he just actually killed. But still, that was kind of mean. I did 3 stuffed. One of the most deranged things William Afton did was stuff the bodies of the original 5 missing children into the original 5 animatronics: Bonnie, Foxy, Freddy, Chica, Golden Freddy. And the craziest part is that he didn't get caught for it. The animatronics smelt like death and started leaking blood and other fluids, and the police didn't bat an eye. He put these bodies in animatronics that perform in front of other kids every single day. How did he think that it was a good idea? Unless it was like his way of displaying his kills or something, which like some crime shows mention, but like some killers enjoy the world knowing what they did, but he doesn't even do that. He just hides them. Like maybe if he didn't, like they didn't know the bodies were in there, he could have been using it as an ego boost, which is still messed up, and it opens so many other doors. Okay, how did the police not confiscate the animatronics when they were literally soaked in blood? But ultimately, into number 2, Chomp. I think we all know that Michael is certainly at least partially responsible for the bite of 83 because, well, William did superpower the jaw of the animatronic. If Michael didn't put his brother's head in the mouth, it wouldn't have really mattered. And while yes, he thought that he'd be safe because it's an animatronic mouth, how bad could it really be? He still definitely contributed to crying child's death. It's interesting the way that fate works, okay? In this instance, we can really blame anyone for the death of the crying child, but I'm absolutely certain that at the very least, Michael blamed himself at the beginning. After learning what William was up to, maybe he felt slightly less guilty, but all it would really do was just assure him that he didn't have the intention of killing his brother. But either way, without him, nobody would have put his head in the animatronic mouth. So yeah, getting your little bro chomped is definitely gonna send you downstairs, you know, especially when you died of fire. That's just poetic irony. And finally, in number 1, Springtrap. Being the genius behind some of the most advanced robotic technology in this universe, we expect a lot from William. He's the suit technician, but he's also the main killer, so like he should really know what he's doing, right? Haha, no. Since after discovering that the original 5 animatronics were possessed, he disassembled them to learn their secrets, which inadvertently released their spirits, because, you know, that's a whole thing, causing William to panic, which I mean is fairly reasonable since, like, you know, they're freaking ghost kids, but they're also the ghost kids that you killed, so yeah, I'd freak out too. But this absolute animatronic genius, the technician that handles the suit maintenance and has explained to every employee how the proper procedure for the spring lock suits, including the spring Bonnie one, ends up climbing inside the suit in a panic in an attempt to make himself feel more powerful and maybe scare the ghost kids away. However, he's so stupid that he didn't notice that the ceiling was leaking, causing the spring locks that were active at this moment since it was in suit mode to fail, which would have killed him had he not been possessed by the one you should not have killed. In 10, fought Ennard. FNAF 5 and 6 had some serious changes between them. Baby went from being a part of Ennard to her own separate animatronic again, with seemingly no explanation. Well, no explanation if you're not really a FNAF fan, since we all know that the interaction that caused this unfortunate split actually took place within the source code of Scott Cawthon's websites, where the two, ScottGames.com and FNAFWorld.com, were actually arguing with each other, which resulted in Baby getting voted off the island. But honestly, thinking about it, this was a stupid idea. It seems like Molten Freddy is the one that's now controlling the blob, since they're the face that the blob prefers to use to jump scare the player and interact with Afton. But we also know that Molten Freddy is just the remains of Ennard after Baby got kicked out, hence why it dropped the whole clown aesthetic. It's also worth noting that Baby's face is also in the blob, except it's missing its red eyes and the red lights in its eyes, alright? Meaning that the soul is probably not contained within the animatronic amalgam. So, if Baby had stayed a part of Ennard, she still might be fighting to this day. I mean, of course, we can't be certain that she's not possessing something else, but we can't be sure that she is either. Plus, I mean, I feel like if you're combined with 5 other animatronics, you're gonna be stronger than if you're just alone. Power in numbers. In at 9, corrupt fun time service. Now, while Gregory might be the culprit behind the FNAF security breach animatronics going haywire according to some theories, the corrupt animatronics from FNAF AR are an entirely different story. These are most likely caused by Vanny, as she was possibly trying to find a new host for Afton using the special delivery animatronics. However, when that didn't work out, she figured that she needed his old vessel to actually return to, which would explain her moving around. However, her corrupting these animatronics directly results in even more deaths at the hands of Fazbear Entertainment robots, which is a whole other issue that I don't understand how in their world hasn't been addressed yet, okay? Like, the cops investigating, or like someone hire a private investigator, please, for the love of God. Someone has to be suspicious about what's going on here, right? Like, Fazbear Entertainment is sus as hell. They've clearly vented, but also this resulted in so many deaths, and multiple of my deaths. Well, I mean, like, if I had played FNAF AR, okay? The only way to win is not to play, so technically I won, but like, still, if I had played, it would have resulted in my death many times over. And it ain't scrapped. While she did end up fighting the rest of Ennard and then getting kicked out, resulting in the creation of Molten Freddy, Baby also ended up giving herself a bit of a makeover. You know, she had to build herself back up again, quite literally, or at least, I guess, give herself another shell, as well as seemingly another arm, since, you know, now she has a giant claw on her left arm. Okay? However, do you want to know something a little bit interesting, okay? According to the Freddy Files Updated Edition, the Bible of the FNAF franchise, basically, the claw on her left arm is the same one from her stomach, meaning that Elizabeth knowingly attached the claw that resulted in her death to her arm, and that's terrifying. Like, this chick is like, yeah, this thing killed me, so you know what, let's put it on my arm so I have better access to it, because, you know, maybe I might need to use it for whatever reason. God, this bitch laced up her sneakers, thought, oh, what if I need to kill someone today, and then thought, oh yeah, I should use the claw that actually killed me. Do you not realize how nuts that is? That's like, that's, bro. And it's 7 fun times. There's no doubting what you've achieved on a technical level. These are clearly state of the art. There are just certain design choices that were made for these robots that we don't fully understand. We were hoping that you could shed some light on those. She can dance, she can sing. She's equipped with a built-in helium tank for inflating balloons right at her fingertips. She can take song requests, so she can even dispense ice cream. With all due respect, those aren't the design choices we were curious about, Mr. Afton. This classic line of Afton being interrogated that plays the first time you open up sister location is definitely showcasing some stupid mistakes. Like, the cops know that what these animatronics are capable of and were designed to do, so they instantly end up being even more suspicious of him. And then they're going to be keeping an even closer eye on him, and then he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be sarcastic with them. Like, what? Like, this is probably why he starts dressing up in like the serial, like the Bonnie suit to start killing people, which ultimately ends up screwing him over. So yeah, you know what? Designing the funtimes as killbots was definitely a horrible thing, especially considering how, you know, one of them was meant to symbolize your dead wife, because that's a thing. I don't even want to know how you tried filling that one up with souls. That takes the definition of funtime animatronic to a horrible level, and I don't want to deal with that. Not to mention, you know, the other one that killed your daughter. And at 6, trespassing. Okay, so while yes, he does break into the Pizzaplex, Gregory also ends up trespassing the entirety of Security Breach. That's like literally the premise of this game. He has breached their security. Gregory is trapped in there after it is closed, but that also makes it trespassing. Like how you aren't supposed to stay overnight in a Walmart like people used to claim to be doing in YouTube videos. Yeah, even though they're locked inside, it's actually trespassing, okay? And this would be too. He gets told to leave multiple times, and the security guard is at least seemingly trying to help him get home, okay? So like, at least legally speaking, to the cameras and to any outsider, she would be helping or trying to. So assuming he ended up getting caught, he could be charged. Although with anything else that happened, I don't think that they'd actually end up charging him. But he also goes into restricted sections of the Pizzaplex, like where we have to go to find the true ending, and then we also like where we have to go to after we crush Chica. So yeah, and no matter what way you try to slice it, he ends up trespassing at some point in this game, and that's pretty messed up, okay? Yeah. Halfway through into number 5, later that night, The Midnight Motorist minigame seems simple enough, but the true horror of this minigame comes from the implications of it. Since in the game files, the minigame is known as Later That Night. Most people akin this game to what happened after William kills Charlotte outside Fredbear's Family Diner in FNAF 2's Take Cake minigame, but if that is true, this is probably one of the scariest moments in FNAF history. This man just killed someone, but then goes home to his kids. He reprimands his son and potentially locks him in his room so much that he had to break his window to escape. Plus, think of all the people driving past him, unaware of the violent crime he had just committed. It's scary because this could be the case in the real world too. Technically speaking, anyone we encounter could be a serial killer, and that is a horrific thought since you're also only technically alive because everyone you've encountered has in a way chosen not to kill you, which only makes the whole anyone could be a serial killer thing even worse. I mean, that's just my paranoid brain, but that's fine. That's because of trauma. And in this case, this man has literally just killed someone, and then he comes home to his kids and starts yelling at his son who's been in his room all day. Like, god damn, bro, how much residual anger do you have? Therapy, Afton. Therapy. In it for Taunting. Okay, now, being a killer is one thing, especially in a video game, but when you're so sadistic that you end up taunting the various characters or people that you intend on killing, that's when it ends up getting scary. And Vanny certainly does this, whether it's on her sound system, her popping up on the TV, or her joyfully skipping towards us until she's close enough to dash. She's playing with us, like we're a pet on a farm, before she ultimately puts us down so that the family can have dinner. Like, come on, there's no way that she's just like that, okay? Especially with Afton being the one who's controlling her, essentially, just making this another version of him. So yeah, her taunting us, her playing with her food is some of the freakiest crap in these games. Like, imagine if frickin' Ted Bundy or John Wayne Gacy was coming after you and they're just like skipping down the middle of the street while being like lit up by lampposts, okay? That's basically what this is. And actually, based on Supernatural's depiction, that's actually how John Wayne Gacy would have acted, but like either way, this is still creepy as hell, okay? It's bad. No. Getting close to the end into number 3, bullying. Okay, I'm not talking about what this specifically leads to, but actually like the tormenting of the younger brother, while common among siblings, especially in the media. This is still cruel. I mean, even Roderick wouldn't have ripped the head off of one of Greg's plushies and used it to torment him. So yeah, the bullying here, Michael, definitely a damn shame. And honestly, the fact that William did nothing to reprimand his son for tormenting his other son only makes this worse, which caused Michael to then escalate, and eventually escalate so much that, well, we all know what happened. But even without that, brothers who torment their younger brothers like that are cruel. I mean, like, yeah, I was mean to my sister, but I didn't destroy her stuff so that I could use it as masks and then scare her even more, okay? And what? I'm sure that he doesn't just wear it to scare a crying child either. He probably just walks around with it to make him mad, since, you know, he's wearing the stuffed animal's face. And I wouldn't have put my sister in an animatronic mouth, okay? Like, I know that they're not gonna crush her skull, but like, I still wouldn't do it. But ultimately, in number 2, stored his daughter. While we know that Afton isn't the best father, I think it's something else to end up locking your robot possessed by the soul of your dead daughter into an animatronic testing facility. Like, that seems to be a bit too far if you ask for my humble opinion, but nevertheless, he did it, and that's what Sister Location's all about. William was like even the one who sent Michael down there in the first place, and then we get shoved full of Ennard bits so that they can escape, but like, did William know about that? Because like, in FNAF 6, Baby says that she's gonna make her dad proud, so like, was William's intention to send us down there so that Baby can get out? Because if that is the case, then why lock her down there in the first place, and then why send your son down there so that he can be gutted, shoved full of robot parts just so she can escape? While he's down there, he has to like keep zapping her and stuff, so like, why would you do that? That seems like a stupid idea. God, this family is messed up. Let's move on. And finally, in number 1, the first victim. They say a killer's first victim is the most important, or at least that's what they said on CSI, since it usually indicates what got them to actually start killing or other psychological clues that could be used to predict their next moves. But in the case of William Afton, his first victim was the daughter of his longtime business partner Henry, which is hella messed up because she was 3 at the time, that time being 1983. And this was the year that Afton's life starts going downhill in the worst ways possible, but he started killing off kids and then he sticks with that MO throughout the rest of his criminal career. And this is before his kids die too. But the fact that his first victim was someone who trusted him, but who didn't like exactly suspect him, even though her father did. Okay, that's something that I fear. I'm not a parent. Okay, so I can only imagine how this must have felt. And if that was me, I would be doing a lot more than burning down restaurants in an attempt to put William down. All right, I'd be there doing it myself, especially if he had killed my daughter when she was 3 years old. Okay, like I can feel the rage brewing inside me, and I don't even have someone that I could have a daughter with. So, Afton, you got lucky. That's a villain origin story if I've ever heard one, bro. In a 10, stored Susie. While yes, storing the body of a child isn't really Chica's fault, it's still something that she did. And this list is about the scary things Chica has done, not necessarily the things that she chose to do. And I think storing the corpse of the first missing child is definitely scary, and if not for the actual act of doing it, then for all of the confusing lore that came afterwards. No matter, the fact that an animatronic is storing a dead body is certainly a scary thing. I mean, if you want to look at me and then say that you would be fine if your child was being entertained by a robot filled with a human corpse, that's certainly your own prerogative. I mean, it would scar the kid for life, but that's fine, I guess. Whatever. I wouldn't be happy if my kid was playing with a corpse, that's for damn sure, but not only that example, let's say you went swimming in a pool and then someone drops a body in at the other end, okay? Whether you be in the shallow end or they're in the shallow end, it doesn't matter, okay? Would you stay in the pool despite it being on the other side of the pool? No, you would get out, okay? It's the same concept here. It's a mystery how the smell of these bodies didn't ruin the atmosphere in the pizza joint, okay? And we all have like a corpse to water ratio that we're fine with, but my animatronic to corpse ratio is 1 to 0. That means one animatronic with no corpses. In at 9, the first. Okay, now while being the vessel that stored Susie may not have been her fault, this one definitely is. In Ultimate Custom Night, every time you die, you get a voice line from the character that killed you. And thanks to Chica, or I guess specifically the withered Chica version, we get the line, quote, "I was the first, I have seen everything." Which while now does seem to indicate that she was the first of the missing children, originally we thought that this meant that she was the first victim ever. Which, while not being scary for the average player or for someone who doesn't care, to me and anyone who thinks about the lore on a more than normal basis, and at that point was making a living from it, that was absolutely terrifying for me, okay? I mean, like, it didn't really make sense for it to work that way, since Charlie, according to the books, died in 1983, which is before the missing children's incident, but other than that, in our brains, it meant that everything that we had established, everything we knew, was wrong. Until we figured out that it just meant that she was the first of the missing children, allowing Charlie to still be the first victim overall. But no matter who you think was the first, we know that Afton wanted to kill prior to his kids dying, as evidenced by Baby and the other Funtimes, so yeah. And it ate the logbook. The survival logbook was in essence just a giant scavenger hunt for the name reveal of the spirit possessing Golden Freddy, which is a lot of trouble to go to for a character with little significance aside from being inside a popular animatronic. Some people interpreted this as Golden Freddy having 2 spirits, some assumed that this made Cassidy the one you should not have killed, but what bothered me the most was the final image in the logbook. That image being of a broken down Chica design never seen before. This wasn't withered Chica, it wasn't a broken Chica from FNAF VR, it was a whole new destroyed version of Chica that confuses the living hell out of me. Like, why is it here? What is its significance? Is it significant at all? If not, what was the point? There are so many questions that were created and caused by this one page that honestly, this could have been the worst thing that she's ever done. But I'm sure that you'd all get mad at me for that one if I put it at number 1. And while I do enjoy making people mad, I could do without the hate comments in my Instagram DMs. But honestly, if you're not mad at me though, you should go follow that if you haven't. And at 7, loves trash. Chica loves trash. And you know what? This could mean many things, actually. Like, it could mean that she loves garbage, or reality TV, our YouTube content, me. But in this case, it means the first one, okay? Chica loves to eat trash. Garbage. Which is certainly interesting when she has a whole thing about being fit and keeping herself in shape in Security Breach with her whole mazer size thing. I guess that she's just literally any Instagram model ever. But her fascination with trash is certainly interesting from like a story standpoint as well. Cause like, Why? Why does she all of a sudden love to eat trash when we know that her character loves pizza instead? My theory is that it's due to maybe Afton and his control, since these robots are in a way an extension of him, and it would mean that Afton is just trying to eat trash in an attempt to keep himself going maybe, but I don't know. It's just a half-baked idea. A FNAF baked idea. That's a good name for a podcast. I should say that like MatPat though. A FNAF baked idea. Thanks for watching. And it's 6, Nightmare. Okay, now technically I guess that this also wasn't her fault, but did she really have to have a nightmare form? Like, come on, okay? The Phantom version was already messing with my groove, and I'm sure that currently you're thinking, what groove? And if you are, you clearly haven't watched enough of our videos, because Chica's my girl, man. You should subscribe so you know more about my really stupid ongoing jokes that are probably going to be used against me if I'm ever on trial. I know that technically the nightmare version of Chica is created in the mind of Crying Child, since, you know, it's a nightmare, but come on, okay? Couldn't have been like a nightmare toy Chica at least, or I guess technically those hadn't come out yet, since this was before the missing children's incident got the place shut down, since it was 1983 and not 85. The toy animatronics were after that. Jesus, man, okay, this whole thing is causing me just a load of headaches. And not only is her nightmare form itself scary, but it's also scary because there are people that still think that these are real physical animatronics. They're not, okay? They're nightmares. They haven't terrorized anyone else, especially in the real world, and the only reason they show up in Ultimate Custom Night is because Crying Child is the one that's creating the situation for William. So yes, they were nightmares. Nightmares. And the only other time they appear is in the Freddy Fazbear Virtual Experience, the in-universe VR game from Help Wanted, so that's also not real. Halfway through into number 5, Eternal Burning. Speaking of Ultimate Custom Night, I know that I just said that Crying Child is the reason that everything is happening, okay? Which would mean that this isn't Chica's fault, and I guess if these are manifestations created by Crying Child in Afton's brain, then they aren't even really Chica, but I needed more numbers for this list, honestly, okay? And while it may not be actually Chica, the vengeful spirit certainly thinks that they would do these things or say these things, so I can really find any justification to include whatever I want on this list, okay? So you just gotta deal with it. It's not like I can change the list at this point anyway. It's been edited, uploaded, you're watching it right now, so don't hate comment. Basically though, this number, I just want to focus on Jacko Chica and her line of "the fire within me burns eternal and now you shall as well," which is total BS. Just because you've suffered doesn't mean that I should have to suffer as well. That's like the parenting technique where if they think their childhood sucked, yours has to as well. Or like when parents try and dismiss your feelings saying that they had things worse. Like, I get that you're bitter, okay, but shouldn't the point of being a parent be to give your kids a better life than you had? Or at least try to do so? Like, what's the point in saying that I had to deal with this growing up, so now you have to suffer as well? That's basically the vibes that I'm getting off of this line, and honestly, it's triggering. I'm going to be unpacking this in therapy tonight. And for tired voice. You won't get tired of my voice, will you? Unfortunately, Chica, yes I will, because this line is one of the most piercing in all of FNAF world. Chica's voice in this game gets so incredibly irritating that if you manage to not get tired of it, or just not throw your fist through your monitor, I'll end up being impressed. There's a lot of criticism for FNAF World, okay? There's a lot of hate towards it, some of which I find unsubstantiated. However, any anger or jokes made towards Chica's voice I find totally understandable, okay? I get it. And I'm not saying that the voice actress did a poor job. Amber Lee Connors did an excellent job, but they did such a good job with making her intentionally irritating. If you didn't know, okay, Amber Lee Connors also voices Toy Chica in Ultimate Custom Night, which is probably why the whole "you won't get tired of dying, will you" line is in Ultimate Custom Night. However, in Ultimate Custom Night, it's much more digestible. And no, I'm not saying that she did a good job because her last name is Connors, and there also is no relation, by the way. I know someone's gonna say it in the comments. When someone's last name is similar to someone else's first, that's not how family works, okay? Unless they change their last name due to marriage or just because they wanted to. To be fair though, if she is related to me, I haven't seen her at any of the family reunions, at least when we had those. Thank God we don't anymore. Damn, I didn't like that. Getting close to the end. In at number 3, fitness icon. Chica's mazer size and security breach is a way to keep kids active and healthy while also giving them an excuse to eat more of the Pizzaplex's junk, which is honestly an incredible marketing ploy. So good on Fazbear Entertainment and for Scott for figuring that one out, but you know what? It sucks for Chica. It also serves as a way to get all of the FNAF snobs off his back when they ask how Chica lost all that weight. Because apparently animatronics need active ways to lose weight, and it's important to the lore of the story. I don't know, I guess people forget that that it's a company and characters go through design changes all the time. I want those same people to ask CEC Entertainment how Chucky lost all the weight from Chuck E. Cheese, and then he also turned into a tiny mouse when he was originally human sized. Actually, at this point, I think that FNAF is more successful than Chuck E. Cheese, so I'm gonna drop that. But either way, it seems like now in the FNAF world, Chica is like the fitness icon, the likes of Jenny Craig. With the same amount of terribly evil business models. So yeah, that's going on the list. But ultimately, in at number 2, betrayed me. So you know what? This is more of a personal beef that I have with Chica, because straight up in every single FNAF game, she has betrayed me. Whether it be FNAF 1 through FNAF 9, Chica always betrays me in some fashion, one way or another. Usually it's by being evil and trying to kill me, but in Sister Location, she betrayed me by not even being there, alright? She legit ghosted me, so I saw no point in even playing that game. It's certainly a rough one. I mean, like, can you imagine what sort of relationship dynamic that would be like? It's always having your advances rejected despite being together for years, never feeling truly wanted, and if you don't initiate things, it would look like you're just friends, and them literally being asked who their crush is, and even though you're sitting right beside her, she ends up putting everyone and then doesn't understand why you would get mad or upset despite you having expressed this multiple times. But whenever you do, she ends up trying to turn it around on you and makes you feel bad about being upset so that they never have to take any responsibility for their actions. And then they lie to you about multiple things, including being a victim for the thing that you hate the most in the world after you found the strength to end things, just so that they can get one last thing out of you. Sorry, what were we talking about? Projecting. And finally, in at number 1, Afton controlled. Okay, now I guess that if you want to think about it like this, being controlled by Afton's virus and security breach isn't her fault, but if we think about this logically, if Freddy was able to glitch out and then not be controlled, couldn't that also have happened to Chica? And without speculation, like Freddy's glitched because he's possessed or whatever, just using facts, Chica could have also glitched. And you know what? That's good enough for me. Plus, whether she did it willingly or not, she was controlled by Afton's virus, and she did some terrible things while under his influence. She dug his corpse out of the rubble of the FNAF 6 pizzeria, causing great frustration to anyone who actually cares about the story of the series, but also because she's controlled by Afton and once again betrays me by chasing me around the Pizzaplex. And not only that, but she did so while also being modded into horrifying other things. And like, sure, the mods aren't her fault, but technically speaking, installing one of those mods puts your game into another FNAF Earth where it is canon. It's not canon to the main universe, but it is, like, in the FNAF, the grand scheme of the FNAF multiverse, there is an Earth where Chica is running around without fake animatronic plastic clothing trying to kill me. So yeah, needless to say, that's pretty damn horrible, mostly because it's an alternate Earth where she's doing that and not the main one.